The trial, death, and resurrection of Jesus, a detailed and dramatic account of Matthew 27. The events of Matthew 27 unfold like a tragic yet triumphant drama, filled with betrayal, injustice, suffering, and ultimate victory. Let's journey through the final moments of Jesus before his execution and the events that followed. Jesus before Pilate, the unjust trial. After being seized in Gethsemane, Jesus was led in chains to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. The religious leaders, filled with envy, presented false accusations against him. Pilate, sitting in his judgment seat, asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus simply responded, "You yourself say it." Despite the mounting accusations hurled at him by the chief priests and elders, Jesus remained silent, astonishing Pilate. He saw no guilt in him, but was caught in a political storm. Meanwhile, Judas, the betrayer, was overwhelmed with guilt. He returned the 30 silver coins to the chief priests, confessing, "I sinned when I betrayed innocent blood." But they coldly replied, "What is that to us? You see to it?" In despair, Judas threw the silver coins into the temple and, unable to bear his guilt, took his own life. The religious leaders, not wanting to put blood money back into the temple treasury, used it to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners, thus fulfilling prophecy. The crowd chooses Barabbas. It was Pilate's custom during Passover to release a prisoner of the people's choosing. Before the crowd stood two men, Jesus, the innocent Son of God, and Barabbas, a notorious criminal. Pilate, hoping to spare Jesus, asked, "Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas, or Jesus, who is called Christ?" At that moment, Pilate's wife sent him an urgent message. "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I suffered much today in a dream because of him." But the religious leaders stirred the crowd, shouting, "Barabbas! Release Barabbas!" Pilate was stunned. "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" The crowd roared, "Impale him! Crucify him!" Pilate, seeing that the uproar was getting out of control, took water, washed his hands, and declared, "I'm innocent of this man's blood. You yourselves bear the responsibility." The people shouted, "His blood be on us and our children." So Pilate released Barabbas and handed Jesus over to be scourged and executed. The brutal mocking of Jesus. Roman soldiers dragged Jesus into the governor's palace and gathered the entire garrison. They stripped him, placed a scarlet robe on him, twisted a crown of thorns, and pressed it onto his head. They mocked him, kneeling before him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him, struck him with a reed, and continued their cruel taunts. After their brutal humiliation, they put his own garments back on him and led him out to be executed. The agonizing journey to Golgotha. As Jesus carried his pole toward Golgotha, his strength began to fail. The soldiers forced Simon of Cyrene to carry the pole for him. Arriving at the place of execution, they offered Jesus wine mixed with gall to drink, but he refused it. Then, in an act of ultimate cruelty, lifting him between two criminals, above his head a sign read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." The crowd, the priests, and even the criminals hurled insults at him. He saved others. He cannot save himself, they sneered. But Jesus endured it all in silence. The darkest hour, Jesus' death at noon, an unnatural darkness fell over the land, lasting for 3 hours. Then, in his final moments, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Shortly after, he said, "It is finished." With his last breath, Jesus yielded up his spirit. At that moment, the temple curtain was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked, rocks split apart, and graves were opened. The Roman centurion, witnessing these events, exclaimed, "Surely this was God's Son." The burial of Jesus, a wealthy disciple, Joseph of Arimathea, courageously approached Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate granted his request, and Joseph, along with Nicodemus, wrapped Jesus in fine linen and placed him in a new tomb cut into a rock. A large stone was rolled over the entrance, and Roman soldiers were stationed to guard it. The resurrection, victory over death. At dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to Jesus' tomb. Suddenly a great earthquake struck, and an angel of Jehovah descended from heaven, rolled away the stone and sat upon it. His appearance was dazzling like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards trembled in fear and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know you are looking for Jesus who was executed. He is not here, for he has been raised up, just as he said. Come, see the place." Meanwhile, the chief priests, desperate to suppress the truth, bribed the guards to spread the false report that Jesus' disciples had stolen his body. The Great Commission. Before ascending to heaven, Jesus appeared to his disciples and gave them a powerful command. "All authority has been given me in heaven and on the earth. Go therefore and make disciples of people of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all the things I have commanded you. And look, I am with you all the days until the conclusion of the system of things." With these words, Jesus' mission on earth was complete. He had conquered death, fulfilled prophecy, and paved the way for salvation. They nailed him to the stake. If he is God's Son, let him come down from the stake. The events of Matthew 27 are among the most powerful in all of history. Jesus, though innocent, willingly endured betrayal, injustice, torture, and death, all to fulfill Jehovah's purpose. But his resurrection proved that he was the promised Messiah, bringing hope to all who put faith in him. Would you have stood with Jesus or among those calling for his death? Let this account remind us of his sacrifice and the victory that followed. Now go forth and share this powerful story.